No, this can't be happening.
The pregnancy test confirmed Amara's worst fear: she was carrying a stranger's baby from a one-night stand that was supposed to stay buried in Seoul. She thought she could handle it alone, build a quiet life, pretend that night never happened, until Park Jae-won appeared at her door like a ghost from her past, except this ghost wore a custom suit and had the dead eyes of a killer. When he learned about the baby, his hand wrapped around her throat, not squeezing but claiming, "My child is growing inside you. You are my possession now." Welcome to K Fairy Tales Stories, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. 3 months earlier, Amara had stepped off the plane at Incheon International Airport with nothing but a suitcase and the kind of desperation that made bad decisions feel inevitable. She'd left Lagos after her mother's funeral, after the creditors came knocking, after her ex-fiancé cleaned out their joint account and disappeared with his secretary. Seoul was supposed to be a fresh start, a place where nobody knew her failures, where she could rebuild from ashes. The teaching job at an international school paid just enough to cover her tiny studio apartment in Itaewon and 3 meals a day if she was careful. She taught English to bored teenagers who looked at her like she was an exotic curiosity, their eyes lingering on her curves, her dark skin, her hair that she wore natural because she couldn't afford the salon treatments Korean beauty standards demanded. That Friday night, her colleague Minji insisted on taking her out. The club was all strobing lights and bass that vibrated through bone, packed with beautiful people who moved like they owned the night. Amara nursed a drink at the bar, watching Minji disappear into the crowd with a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. That's when she felt it. The weight of someone's attention, heavy and deliberate. She turned and met eyes so dark they looked black in the club's lighting. He was tall for a Korean man, broad-shouldered in a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, with a face that was all sharp angles and controlled violence. His hair was swept back, revealing a forehead that somehow made him look both younger and more dangerous. He didn't smile, didn't look away, just watched her like she was prey, and he was deciding whether she was worth the hunt. Something in Amara's chest pulled tight. She should have looked away, should have ignored him, should have remembered that men who looked at women like that were trouble wrapped in expensive fabric. Instead, she held his gaze, lifted her chin in challenge. He moved through the crowd like water, people parting without seeming to notice they were moving. When he reached her, he didn't introduce himself, didn't ask permission. He just leaned close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that made her want to press closer. "You don't belong here," he said in English, his accent crisp and perfectly controlled. "In this club?" she asked. "In Seoul." His eyes traced her face, cataloging every feature. "You're running from something." Amara's spine stiffened. "That's none of your business. Everything in this city is my business." He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather, like he hadn't just claimed ownership of millions of people. "Dance with me." It wasn't a request. She should have said no, should have walked away, should have done literally anything except let him pull her onto the dance floor, his hand hot against the small of her back. But the whiskey was warm in her veins, and she was so tired of being careful, of being good, of doing everything right and still ending up alone. He moved like sin, all controlled power and deliberate touches that made her skin burn. His hand slid from her back to her hip, fingers digging in just enough to brand. When she looked up, she found him watching her mouth, and the heat in his eyes made her forget why she'd come to Seoul. Forget everything except the way his body felt pressed against hers. "What's your name?" she asked. "Does it matter?" His breath ghosted across her ear. "Tonight, we can be whoever we want to be." Later, she wouldn't remember who kissed who first, just that suddenly they were tangled together in a corner, his mouth demanding and skilled, his hands everywhere, her body responding like it had been starving and he was a feast. He tasted like whiskey and danger, and something she couldn't name but desperately needed. "Come with me," he murmured against her lips. Every rational thought screamed no. Every instinct she'd honed through 26 years of life told her this man was dangerous, that whatever happened next would change everything. But grief and loneliness and too much alcohol made her stupid, made her nod, made her follow him out of the club into a black car that probably cost more than her annual salary. His penthouse overlooked the Han River, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. He poured her another drink, and she drank it, liquid courage burning down her throat. When he kissed her again, she kissed back with everything she had, desperate to feel something other than the emptiness that had lived in her chest since her mother died. He was careful with her clothes, reverent even, but there was nothing gentle about the way he touched her, nothing soft about the way he claimed her body like it was territory to be conquered. And God help her, she let him, met his intensity with her own, gave as good as she got until they were both gasping and tangled together and she'd forgotten her own name. Afterward, in the darkness, she felt his fingers trace patterns on her spine. For a moment, she thought he might say something, might ask her to stay. Instead, he just pulled her closer, and she fell asleep listening to his heartbeat, steady and sure against her cheek. When she woke, he was gone. No note, no number, just her clothes folded neatly on a chair and a black credit card on the nightstand with more money than she'd make in 6 months. The shame hit her like a fist. She'd slept with a stranger, taken his money like she was something to be paid for, and she didn't even know his name. She left the card, dressed quickly, and slipped out of the penthouse like a thief. She spent the next 3 weeks trying to forget, burying herself in work, in lesson plans, in anything that kept her mind from drifting back to dark eyes and skilled hands, and the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious and profane all at once. Then her period didn't come. The first test was positive, so was the second, and the third. She sat on her bathroom floor and cried, not because she didn't want the baby, but because she had no idea how to find the father. And even if she did, what would she say? That she'd been irresponsible enough to sleep with a stranger without protection? That she'd been desperate enough to accept his money like payment? She'd figure it out. She always did. She'd raise this baby alone, love it enough for 2 parents, build a life from nothing the way her mother had. She didn't need him, didn't need anyone. 2 weeks later, he was standing at her apartment door. Amara froze, her hand on the doorknob, staring at Park Jae-won like he was a hallucination. He looked exactly as she remembered, all sharp edges and controlled violence in another expensive suit, except now his eyes were cold, calculating, completely void of the heat she'd seen that night. "How did you find me?" Her voice came out smaller than she'd intended. "I own half of Seoul," he said, like that explained everything. "Did you really think I wouldn't know where you went?" He pushed past her into the apartment, and she was too shocked to stop him. He looked around, taking in the cramped space, the second-hand furniture, the stack of English textbooks on her coffee table. Something flickered across his face, too fast to name. "Why are you here?" she demanded, finding her voice. He turned to her, and the weight of his attention made her want to step back. "You left something at my apartment." Amara's heart stuttered. "The money? I didn't want it. I'm not the money." He moved closer, and she held her ground even though every instinct told her to run. "You left a bracelet, small, silver, with a charm that says strength." Her hand flew to her bare wrist. Her mother's bracelet, the only thing she had left. She'd been so desperate to leave that morning, she hadn't even noticed. "I'll get it back to you," he continued, his voice flat. "But I wanted to see you again." The honesty in that statement caught her off guard. "Why?" "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." He said it like a confession, like an accusation. "Because every woman I've looked at since that night has been wrong, has been not you." Amara's breath caught. "That was just one night. We don't know each other. I know how you taste." His eyes darkened. "I know the sounds you make when you're close. I know you cry after orgasm, and I know you left before I could ask you to stay." Heat flooded her face. That wasn't supposed to mean anything. It meant everything. He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, could feel the heat radiating off him. "Tell me you haven't thought about it. Tell me you haven't relived that night 1,000 times. She had. God, she had, even though she'd hated herself for it. "It doesn't matter. That was a mistake." "Then why are you pregnant?" The world tilted, all the blood drained from her face. Her hand instinctively went to her stomach, still flat, still hiding the secret she'd barely begun to process. "How? I had you followed. No apology, no shame. My driver reported you visiting a clinic, purchasing prenatal vitamins, changing your diet. I'm not an idiot, Amara. Is it mine? She should lie, should deny it, should do anything except tell this dangerous stranger that she was carrying his child. But something in his eyes, some desperate hope beneath the cold calculation, made her honest. Yes, the word hung between them like a live wire. He moved so fast she didn't have time to react, his hand wrapping around her throat, not squeezing but holding, claiming, his thumb pressed against her pulse point, feeling it race. "Say that again. It's yours," she whispered. "I'm pregnant, and it's yours." His other hand came to her stomach, spread possessively over where their child was growing. "My child is growing inside you. You are my possession now. I'm not anyone's possession." She tried to pull away, but his grip tightened fractionally. "You became mine the moment my seed took root in your womb." The archaic language should have been ridiculous. Instead, it made something hot and dangerous coil in her belly. "This doesn't change anything. I can raise this baby alone." "No." The word was absolute. "You'll move into my penthouse. You'll quit your job. You'll want for nothing." "I don't want your money. You want my child to grow up in this?" He gestured around her apartment with contempt. "You want my heir sleeping in a closet-sized room, eating cheap food, wearing second-hand clothes? Better than growing up with a father who—" She stopped, but he finished for her. "Who what? Who paid you after sex? Who treats you like property?" His smile was sharp. "I won't apologize for either. You needed money. I gave it. You're carrying my child. You're mine. These are facts." Amara shoved at his chest, and surprisingly, he let her go. She put distance between them, wrapping her arms around herself. "I don't even know you. You could be anyone, a criminal, a murderer. I'm both." He said it so casually. "I run an organization that operates in shadows. I've killed men who threatened what's mine. I've done things that would make you run screaming, but I'm also the father of your child, and I will protect you both with every resource I have." The honesty was more terrifying than any lie. "I can't do this. I can't be with someone like you. You don't have a choice." He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo that made her blood turn to ice. It was her, leaving the clinic, but in the background, she could see a man watching her, his face half hidden but his intent clear. "You have enemies now, people who will use you to get to me, people who will hurt you and the baby to hurt me. That's your fault." Her voice shook. "I didn't ask for this." "No, but you have it anyway." He pocketed his phone. "You have until Sunday to decide. Move in with me, accept my protection, or stay here and hope that the man in that photo doesn't decide you're worth the risk." He moved to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. "And Amara? If you run, I'll find you. If you try to hide my child from me, I'll make you regret it. You're mine now. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be." Then he was gone, and Amara sank to the floor, her hand pressed to her stomach, feeling the weight of the impossible choice he'd just given her. She'd come to Seoul to escape. Instead, she'd run straight into a trap, dressed in Armani suits and dark promises. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every sound made her jump. Every shadow looked like danger. She thought about the man in the photo, wondered who he was, what he wanted. She thought about Park Jae-won, about the way he'd touched her that night like she was sacred, about the way he'd looked at her today like she was his to command. By morning, she'd made her decision. Not because she wanted to, but because she couldn't risk her baby. She packed a single bag, left the key with her landlord, and took a taxi to the address he'd texted her at dawn, like he'd known she would break. The penthouse looked different in daylight, less seductive, more like what it was, a fortress. He was waiting when she arrived, dressed in casual clothes that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less. "Smart choice," he said. "I didn't have a choice." She dropped her bag. "Let's be clear about something. I'm here for the baby, not for you, not for whatever you think happened between us. What happened between us is that I claimed you." He moved closer, and she stood her ground. "You can tell yourself whatever lies help you sleep, but your body knows the truth. You're mine, Amara. You've been mine since the moment I saw you in that club." His hand came up to cup her face, and she hated how her body leaned into the touch. "And soon, you'll stop lying to yourself about it." He showed her to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire apartment, with a closet already full of clothes in her size, a bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. "This is yours," he said. "No one enters without permission. Not even me. Where's your room?" The question was out before she could stop it. His smile was slow, predatory. "Right next door. Close enough to hear if you need me. Close enough to come running if you're in danger. Close enough to torment her with proximity. I won't need you. We'll see." He left her then, and she spent the next hour exploring her new prison, touching expensive fabrics, staring out windows that overlooked a city that suddenly felt foreign and hostile. She'd thought she was escaping when she came to Seoul. Instead, she'd just traded one cage for another, except this cage had a jailer who looked at her like she was oxygen, and he was suffocating. The first week was an education in how the other half lived. Park Jae-won's world was one of luxury and violence in equal measure. Men in dark suits came and went at all hours, speaking in rapid Korean she couldn't follow. He had meetings in his office that sometimes ended with shouting, sometimes with silence that felt more dangerous. But with her, he was different. Careful. He made sure she ate 3 meals a day, hired a personal chef who could cook both Korean and Nigerian food. He brought her prenatal vitamins every morning, watched her take them like he didn't trust her to remember. He had a doctor come to the penthouse, a woman who examined her gently and confirmed the baby was healthy, growing right on schedule. "You're 8 weeks along, doctor," Kim said in perfect English. "Everything looks good, but you need to reduce stress." Park Jae-won had been in the room for the examination, standing in the corner like a sentinel. Now he moved forward. "What kind of stress?" "Any kind. Emotional, physical. She needs calm, peace, security." "Doctor." Kim looked between them, and Amara could see her putting pieces together. The father should be supportive, present, gentle. "I'm all of those things," he said, and Amara almost laughed because he was none of them. But after the doctor left, he surprised her. He cleared his schedule for the week, stayed in the penthouse, just existing in the same space as her. He didn't push, didn't demand, just made sure she was comfortable, that she had everything she needed. It was more unnerving than his earlier possessiveness. One evening, she found him in the living room, staring out at the city. Without thinking, she sat beside him. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Being kind. You don't strike me as a kind man." He turned to look at her, and something raw flickered across his face. "I'm not. Ask anyone in Seoul, and they'll tell you I'm ruthless, cold, unforgiving. But with you?" He reached out, traced her jawline with one finger. "With you, I want to be different." "Why?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Because you're carrying my child. Because when I look at you, I don't see someone to use or manipulate or destroy. I see someone I want to protect." His hand dropped. "Because for the first time in my life, I care if someone thinks I'm a monster." The honesty stole her breath. "I do think you're a monster." "I know." He smiled, sad and beautiful. "But maybe you can teach me to be a man instead." That night, she dreamed of him. Not the dangerous stranger from the club, but the man who brought her vitamins, who listened to her talk about her mother, who looked at her stomach like it held his entire world. She woke confused and aching, her body remembering things her mind wanted to forget. The second week brought complications. Amara was in the kitchen making tea when she heard voices, loud and angry, coming from Jae-won's office. She knew she shouldn't eavesdrop, but curiosity won. She crept closer, pressed against the wall. "You're compromised." An older man's voice, harsh with disapproval. "This woman, this baby, they make you weak. They make me stronger." Jae-won's voice was steel. "I have something to protect now, something worth fighting for. You have an organization to protect. Hundreds of men depending on you, and you're risking everything for a woman you barely know. She's carrying my heir. Then take the child when it's born, pay her off. Send her back to whatever country she crawled from." The contempt in those words made Amara's hands clench. "But don't marry her. Don't let her destroy everything you've built. I'll marry her whenever I please." Jae-won's voice dropped. "Dangerous. And if you question my decisions again, you'll find yourself replaced." "She stays. The baby stays. This is not negotiable." Silence. Then footsteps. Amara barely made it back to the kitchen before the older man stormed through, his face twisted with rage. He saw her, looked her up and down with naked disgust, and spat something in Korean before leaving. Jae-won appeared moments later. "How much did you hear?" "Enough." She turned to face him. Your people hate me. My people fear change. They'll adapt. He moved closer. And I meant what I said. You're not going anywhere. You talked about marriage like it's inevitable. It is. He said it so simply. I'm not marrying you for politics or alliance or business. I'm marrying you because you're mine, and I take care of what's mine. That's not love. No. His hand came to rest on her stomach. But it's something, and maybe, given time, it could become more. Before she could respond, his phone rang. He answered in rapid Korean, his expression darkening with each word. When he hung up, he was already moving. Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone. What's wrong? Someone leaked information about you. About the baby. He was strapping on a shoulder holster, checking a gun with practiced efficiency. I need to handle this before it becomes a problem. Handle it how? But he was already gone, and she was alone in the penthouse, wondering what kind of man she'd tied herself to, what kind of father their child would have. Hours passed. She tried to read, to watch television, to do anything except imagine worst-case scenarios. When she finally heard the door open, she rushed to the entrance, then stopped dead. Jaewon's suit was splattered with blood. His knuckles were split and bleeding, but his face was calm, almost serene. Is that your blood? She asked. Some of it. He moved past her toward the bathroom. The leak has been handled. Handled meaning what? She followed him, watched as he began to strip off his ruined clothes. Meaning the man who sold information about you will never speak again. You killed him. Yes. He said it like he'd commented on the weather. He put you and my child at risk. That's a death sentence in my world. Amara should have been horrified, should have run screaming. Instead, she found herself reaching for the first aid kit, pulling out antiseptic and bandages. Sit. He obeyed, and she began cleaning his hands, her touch gentle despite her churning emotions. This is who I am, he said quietly. I won't apologize for protecting you. I'm not asking you to. She focused on his knuckles, on the split skin and bruising. But I need to know, is this going to be my life now? Violence and danger and constantly looking over my shoulder? As long as you're with me, yes. His free hand came to her chin, tilted her face up. But I promise you this, no one will ever hurt you. No one will ever take our child from us. I'll burn this entire city down before I let that happen. The vow should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel safe in a way she hadn't since her mother died. She finished bandaging his hands, but didn't step away. You're insane. About you? Absolutely. He pulled her closer, until she was standing between his legs, his hands on her hips. Tell me you don't feel it. This pull between us. Tell me I'm alone in this. She couldn't, because she did feel it, had felt it since that first night, this inexorable gravity dragging her toward him despite every rational reason to run. It's just chemistry, physical attraction. Then why does my chest hurt when you're not in the room? His voice was raw. Why do I wake up reaching for you? Why do I check on you 3 times a night to make sure you're still breathing? Because you're obsessed. Yes, he didn't deny it. But obsession doesn't explain why I want to know your favorite color, your childhood dreams, the way you take your tea. Obsession doesn't explain why I read to you while you sleep, why I've memorized the way you hum when you're cooking. Amara's breath caught. You read to me? Every night. You sleep so deeply you never notice. His thumb stroked her hip through her clothes. I read because my mother read to me when I was young, before she died. I want our child to know my voice, to associate it with safety and love. The image of this dangerous man reading bedtime stories to her sleeping form, to their unborn child, cracked something open in her chest. What do you read? Korean folktales, stories about tigers and rabbits and clever girls who save kingdoms. His smile was soft. Our child will be half Korean, half Nigerian. I want them to know both worlds, to be proud of both. You've thought about this. I think about nothing else. He pulled her closer still, until she had to brace her hands on his bare shoulders. You think I'm a monster, and you're right. But for you, for this baby, I'm trying to be something better. Give me a chance to prove it. How? Stay. Not because I'm forcing you, but because you choose to. Let me show you who I can be when I have something worth being better for. His forehead touched hers. Let me love you, even if you can't love me back. The word love hung between them, too big and dangerous. She should deny it, should push him away, should remember that this man had killed today, would kill again. Instead, she kissed him. It started gentle, questioning, but within seconds it ignited into something desperate. His hands tangled in her hair, angling her head for better access. She climbed into his lap, straddling him, feeling his immediate response. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were black with want. Amara. Her name was a plea and a warning. Tell me to stop. Don't stop. She kissed him again. Don't you dare stop. He stood, lifting her easily, and carried her to his bedroom. The last coherent thought she had was that she was making another mistake, another stupid decision that would change everything. Then his mouth was on her skin, and she stopped thinking entirely. Afterward, in the darkness, she felt his hand trace patterns on her stomach, protective and possessive. I wasn't careful, he said quietly. But you're already pregnant, so that's not the point. She turned to face him. We can't keep doing this. This isn't a relationship. This is everything. He cut her off. Stop lying to yourself. Stop pretending you don't feel this. Feel what? Lust? Physical attraction? Love. The word was a bomb detonating between them. You're falling in love with me, just like I'm falling in love with you. And it terrifies you because you didn't plan for this. Didn't want to care about the man who got you pregnant and complicated your entire life. You don't love me. Her voice shook. You love the idea of me, of having a family, of having something that's yours. I love how you hum when you cook. I love how you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I love how you defend me even when you don't want to, how you see humanity in me when everyone else sees a monster. His hand came to her face. I love that you're carrying my child. Yes, but I'd love you even if you weren't. I loved you from that first night, when you looked at me like I was dangerous and chose me anyway. Tears burned her eyes. This is moving too fast. Then tell me to slow down. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll give you space. But he wouldn't. They both knew it. He was too possessive, too obsessed, too far gone. I can't, she whispered the confession. I can't tell you to stop because I don't want you to. God help me, I don't want you to. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, and nothing like the desperate passion from earlier. When he pulled back, his eyes were suspiciously bright. Then stop fighting this. Stop fighting us. What if it falls apart? What if you wake up one day and realize I'm not worth the trouble? Impossible. He pulled her against his chest, wrapped around her like a shield. You're the most valuable thing I've ever had, more precious than my empire, my money, my life. If it falls apart, it won't be because I stopped wanting you. It'll be because you finally saw sense and ran. She fell asleep listening to his heartbeat, feeling safe for the first time since her mother died, and terrified by how much she'd come to depend on this dangerous man in such a short time. The next morning brought a new complication. Amara woke to find Jaewon gone, but a note on the pillow beside her. Emergency meeting. Stay inside. Security has been tripled. I'll be back before lunch. Jay. She showered, dressed in the expensive clothes he'd provided, and wandered the penthouse. In the daylight, she could appreciate the beauty of it, the careful curation of art and furniture, the way every detail was perfect. It felt like a museum, beautiful but cold, except for his bedroom, which still smelled like him, like them. She was making breakfast when she heard voices at the door, security talking to someone, their tones sharp and warning. Then a woman's voice, crisp and commanding, speaking rapid Korean. Moments later, an elegant older woman swept into the penthouse like she owned it. So you're the one. The woman switched to perfect English, her eyes raking over Amara with surgical precision. The one who thinks she can trap my son with a pregnancy. Amara's hand instinctively went to her stomach. I didn't trap anyone. Of course you did. The woman moved closer, circling like a predator. You saw a wealthy man, spread your legs, and now you think you've secured your future. How much will it take for you to disappear? Name your price. I'm not leaving. Amara's voice was stronger than she felt. And I'm not taking your money. Everyone has a price. The woman pulled out a check, already written for an obscene amount. This is enough to set you up for life. Take it. Disappear. Leave my son alone. No. Amara didn't even look at the check. I'm carrying his child, your grandchild, and he wants me here. He thinks he wants you. The woman's smile was sharp. But my son is a man of duty, of honor. Once the novelty wears off, once you're no longer shiny and new, he'll resent you, resent the obligation. You'll be trapped in a marriage with a man who stays out of duty, not love. Is that what you want for yourself? For your child? The words burrowed under Amara's skin because they voiced every fear she'd been trying to ignore. What if J1's obsession faded? What if she became a burden instead of a treasure? Get out. She forced strength into her voice. This is his home, not yours. You have no right to be here. I have every right. I'm his mother, and I'm the mother of his child. Amara stood taller, which means we're going to be in each other's lives whether you like it or not. So you can accept that and try to be civil, or you can leave and he'll never forgive you. Your choice. The standoff lasted 3 seconds that felt like hours. Then the door opened and Jaewon stormed in, his face a mask of controlled fury. Mother, leave, now. His mother's expression didn't change. I was just getting to know your friend. She's not my friend. She's my fiancé. And if you ever speak to her like that again, if you ever come here uninvited again, I will cut you off completely. Do you understand me? You don't mean that. Test me. His voice dropped to something dangerous. I've killed men for less. Don't think blood will protect you if you threaten what's mine. His mother looked between them, seemed to realize he was serious, and swept out without another word. The second the door closed, Jaewon turned to Amara. Are you all right? Did she hurt you? I'm fine, but her hands were shaking. She said I trapped you, that once the novelty wears off, you'll resent me. He pulled her into his arms, held her so tight she could barely breathe. My mother is a bitter woman who's never forgiven my father for dying and leaving her alone. She wants me to be as miserable as she is. He pulled back to look at her. But I'm not my father, and you're not my mother. What we have is different. Is it? Or are we just two broken people clinging to each other because we're afraid to be alone? Maybe we started that way. His hand came to her face. But it's becoming something real, something worth fighting for. Do you feel it? She did. God help her. She did. Yes, then trust it. Trust me. Trust that when I say you're mine, I mean forever. Not just until the baby is born, not just until I get bored, but forever. He kissed her forehead. You're stuck with me, Amara. Better get used to it. That afternoon, he worked from home, positioning himself in the living room where he could see her. She tried to read, to relax, but she couldn't shake his mother's words. What if she was right? What if this was all just temporary? By evening, she couldn't take it anymore. Are you going to marry me? Actually marry me, or are you just saying that to keep me compliant? He looked up from his laptop, his eyes sharp. I'm going to marry you. When? Whenever you say yes. He closed the laptop, gave her his full attention. I've had the papers drawn up for weeks. The moment you agree, we can be married within hours. Why haven't you asked properly? Because I wanted you to come to me, to choose this without pressure, without fear. He stood, walked to where she sat. But if you need me to ask, I will. He knelt before her, took her hands in his. Amara, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that you're more important than my empire, more valuable than anything I've ever built? Will you let me be a father to our child and a husband to you? The proposal was unromantic, practical, everything she shouldn't want, but it was also honest, raw, him. Yes. The word escaped before she could overthink it. Yes, I'll marry you. The relief on his face was almost beautiful. He pulled her down for a kiss that tasted like promises and desperation and something that might, eventually, become love. Tomorrow, he said against her lips. We'll do it tomorrow. That's too fast. I've waited long enough. His hand covered her stomach. I want my child born legitimate. I want the world to know you're mine before anyone else gets ideas. Possessive much? Completely. He didn't apologize. You have no idea the things I want to do to anyone who looks at you wrong. The restraint I show every day is for your benefit, not theirs. They married the next day in a private ceremony with just 2 witnesses, both of whom were clearly terrified of Jaewon. The officiant spoke so fast Amara barely understood the Korean, and then Jaewon was sliding a ring onto her finger, platinum and diamonds that probably cost more than her old apartment. When he kissed her, it felt like a brand, like he was marking her as his in front of witnesses, making it official and permanent and irrevocable. "You're mine now," he murmured against her lips. "Legally, officially mine." "And you're mine," she shot back, surprising herself. "That goes both ways." His smile was genuine, warm. "Yes, it does." The reception was just them. Dinner in the penthouse, champagne he didn't let her drink because of the baby. He'd had her favorite foods prepared, had clearly spent time learning what she liked, what made her happy. "I have something for you," he said after dinner. He handed her a folder, and when she opened it, she found property deeds. "What is this?" "A house. In Lagos." He watched her face. "I know you miss home. I thought, maybe after the baby is born, we could split our time. 6 months here, 6 months there. Our child should know both cultures, both worlds." Tears burned her eyes. "You bought a house in Lagos? I bought a house for you. For us. For our family." He took her hand. "I know I'm not perfect. I know my world is violent and dangerous. But I'm trying, Amara. I'm trying to be the man you deserve. The father our child deserves." She kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. Gratitude and affection and the first stirrings of something deeper. When they made love that night, it was different, slower, more tender, with his hands on her stomach and his lips murmuring promises in Korean that she didn't understand but felt in her bones. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, she finally said the words that had been building for weeks. "I think I'm falling in love with you." He went still, then pulled her impossibly closer. "Say it again. I'm falling in love with you. Not because of the money or the security or even the baby, but because of who you are when it's just us. Because you read to me when I sleep. Because you kill for me and then bandage your hands so I don't have to see the damage. I love you." His voice cracked. "I've loved you since that first night, and I'll love you until I die. You're everything, Amara. Everything I didn't know I needed." They lay like that for hours, neither sleeping, just existing in the certainty of what they'd found. For the first time since her mother's death, Amara felt like she was home. Not in a place, but in a person. The peace lasted exactly 2 days. Amara was at a prenatal appointment with Dr. Kim, Jaewon beside her watching the ultrasound screen like it held the secrets of the universe. When his phone rang, he ignored it. It rang again. And again. Finally, he answered, his voice sharp. The conversation was in rapid Korean, but Amara didn't need to understand the words to catch the urgency. "I have to go." He stood, his face grim. "Stay here until security comes to get you. Don't leave this building." "What's wrong?" "Someone attacked one of my warehouses. Killed 3 of my men." His jaw was tight. "This is a declaration of war." "Then don't go." She grabbed his hand. "Let someone else handle it." "I can't. If I don't respond immediately, I look weak. And weakness in my world means death." He kissed her hard and fast. "I'll be back before dinner, I promise." But he wasn't. Dinner came and went with no word. She tried calling, but his phone went to voicemail. Security wouldn't tell her anything, just kept assuring her that their boss was fine, that he'd be back soon. By midnight, she was pacing the penthouse, her imagination running wild with worst-case scenarios. That's when the door opened, and he stumbled in, supported by 2 of his men. Blood covered his left side, and his face was pale. "Oh my God!" Amara rushed forward. "What happened?" "Just a graze." His voice was weak. "Bullet caught my side. I'm fine." "You're not fine." She helped get him to the couch while one of his men called Dr. Kim. "Why didn't you go to a hospital?" "Can't," he grimaced as she pressed a towel to his side. "Too many questions. Too much exposure." "Doctor." Kim arrived within 20 minutes and patched him up with brisk efficiency. "The bullet went through, missed anything vital. He's lucky." She looked at Amara. "But he needs rest, no stress, and someone to watch for infection." After the doctor left, Amara helped him to bed, her hands gentle despite her racing heart. "You promised you'd be back for dinner." "I'm sorry." He caught her hand. "The situation was worse than I thought. Our rivals are making a move, trying to take territory while they think I'm distracted with you and the baby." "Then give it to them." The words burst out. "Give them whatever they want. Just stop putting yourself in danger." "I can't do that." His voice was firm despite the pain. "If I show weakness now, they'll come after everything I have. including you. I don't care about the Empire. She was crying now. I care about you, about our baby having a father. What good is all this power if you're dead? I'm not going to die. He pulled her down beside him. But I need you to understand something. This is who I am. This is the world I live in. Violence is the language we speak. If I stop now, if I back down, we'll never be safe. She hated that he was right, hated that the man she loved was also a man who killed and fought and bled for power. I can't lose you. The admission was quiet. I just found you. I can't lose you. You won't. He kissed her forehead. I promise. You won't. But promises were fragile things in a world made of violence. The next morning, she woke to find him gone. Another note on the pillow. Early meeting. We'll be back soon. But soon became hours, and hours became afternoon. She was in the kitchen making lunch when she heard shouting from the entrance, then a gunshot that made her heart stop. She ran toward the sound and found security holding a man at gunpoint. He was young, maybe 20, with wild eyes and a gun that shook in his hand. Where's Park Jae-won? He demanded in Korean. I know he lives here. I know his whore is here. Amara should have stayed hidden, should have let security handle it. Instead, she stepped into view. Who are you? The man's eyes locked on her, his gun swinging to point at her stomach. You're her. The reason my brother is dead. Park Jae-won killed him, and now I'm going to kill what he loves. Time slowed. Amara saw his finger tighten on the trigger, saw security moving but not fast enough, saw her life and her baby's life about to end. Then a shot rang out. The young man dropped, a hole blooming in his chest. Jae-won stood in the doorway, his gun still raised, his face a mask of cold fury. Get her out of here, he ordered security. Now. But Amara couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process that she'd almost died, that her baby had almost been killed. Jae-won crossed to her in 3 strides, pulling her against him. You're okay. You're safe. I'm here. He was going to kill me. Her voice shook. Kill our baby. But he didn't. He's dead, and you're alive, and that's all that matters. He held her so tight she could barely breathe. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have been here. Should have protected you better. This isn't your fault. But even as she said it, she wondered, how many more attempts would there be? How many more times would someone try to hurt her to get to him? That night, she couldn't sleep. Every noise made her jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. Jae-won held her through it, murmuring reassurances, but she could feel his tension, knew he was struggling with his own demons. We can't keep living like this, she said finally. I can't raise our child in a war zone. I know. His voice was hoarse. I'm going to end this. Whatever it takes, I'm going to end this war and make sure you're safe. How? By doing what I should have done from the start. By eliminating every threat, every rival, every person who might come after what's mine. The cold calculation in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel safe. That's going to mean more violence. More blood. Yes. He didn't sugarize it. But it's the only way. In my world, you can't show mercy. You can't leave enemies alive to come back stronger. You have to be absolute. She turned to look at him, saw the man she loved and the monster he could become, and realized they were the same person. Then do it. Whatever you have to do it. Because I won't raise our child in fear. I love you. He kissed her, fierce and desperate. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too. And she did. God help her, she did. Now go make us safe. The war lasted 3 days. Amara stayed in the penthouse, security tripled, while Jae-won systematically dismantled his rivals. She didn't ask for details, didn't want to know how many people died so she could feel safe. She just waited, her hand on her growing stomach, praying he would come back to her. On the 3rd day, he returned covered in blood and exhaustion, but victorious. It's done, he said simply. They're all gone. No one left who would dare come after you. She should have been horrified, should have seen him as the monster he'd become. Instead, she just pulled him close and held on. Thank you for keeping us safe. They showered together, washing away the blood and violence, and then he made love to her with a tenderness that felt like apology and worship combined. Afterward, with his hand on her stomach and their child kicking beneath his palm, he made her a promise. Never again. No more violence. I'm going legitimate, leaving the organization in someone else's hands. Our child will grow up knowing their father as a businessman, not a criminal. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. He kissed her stomach. Because I want to be there for every moment, every first, every milestone, every scraped knee and broken heart. And I can't do that if I'm dead or in prison. So I'm choosing you, choosing our family, choosing a different life. The transition wasn't easy. His men didn't understand, saw it as weakness. But J1 was absolute. Within months, he'd transferred power, had insulated himself from the criminal elements of his empire, had become just another wealthy businessman with a beautiful wife and a baby on the way. Amara's belly grew round and heavy. She'd never felt so beautiful, so loved, so cherished. J1 treated her like she was made of glass and starlight, attending every doctor's appointment, reading every baby book, preparing for fatherhood with the same intensity he'd once applied to building his empire. When she went into labor, he was there, holding her hand, coaching her through contractions, looking more terrified than she'd ever seen him. "You're okay," he kept saying. "You're doing amazing. I'm here. I'm right here." Their daughter was born at sunrise, screaming her displeasure at the world with impressive lungs. She had Amara's dark skin and J1's eyes, a perfect blend of both of them. When the nurse placed her in Amara's arms, she burst into tears, overwhelmed by love and relief and joy. "She's perfect," J1 whispered, his own eyes wet. "You're both perfect." He kissed Amara's forehead. Thank you for giving me this, for giving me her, for giving me a reason to be better." "What should we call her?" Amara asked. "Hope." The name came out without thought. Because that's what she is. Our hope for a better future. Hope Park. J1 tested the name, smiled. "I like it." He gently touched his daughter's tiny hand, and she immediately gripped his finger with surprising strength. "She's strong, like her mother." They stayed like that for hours, just the three of them, a family forged from violence and desperation and unexpected love. And in that hospital room, with their daughter between them, Amara finally felt like she'd found what she'd been searching for when she came to Seoul. Not escape, but home. Not safety, but belonging. Not just survival, but a reason to live. "I love you," she told J1. "I know that makes me insane, that I should have run the moment you showed up at my door. But I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I stayed. I'm glad you stayed too." He kissed her softly. "Because you saved me, Amara. You and Hope, you saved me from becoming the monster everyone thought I was." "You were never a monster." She touched his face. "Just a man trying to protect what he loved." 6 months later, they stood in their Lagos home, the one he'd bought as a promise, watching Hope take her first wobbly steps across the hardwood floor. J1 had kept his word about splitting their time, about making sure their daughter knew both cultures. He'd learned to cook jollof rice, had started learning Yoruba, had embraced Amara's heritage as part of Hope's story. "She's walking," Amara said, tears streaming down her face as their daughter took 3 steps before falling on her diaper-padded bottom. "Our baby is walking. She's going to be running before we know it." J1 scooped Hope up, lifted her high above his head, making her shriek with laughter, and giving us gray hair with worry. Speaking of worry, Amara had been holding on to this news for a week, waiting for the right moment. "I have something to tell you." He looked at her, his expression shifting to concern. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." She took his free hand, placed it on her still flat stomach. "But you might want to start preparing yourself for round 2. It took him 3 seconds to understand. Then his face transformed, joy and shock and something like awe. "You're pregnant? Again? Again?" She laughed at his expression. "Apparently we're very fertile together." He set Hope down gently, then pulled Amara into his arms, spinning her around. "We're having another baby. We are." She was laughing and crying at the same time. "Are you happy? Happy?" He set her down, cupped her face. "Amara, you've given me everything. A daughter, a family, a reason to wake up every morning and try to be better. Now another child?" He kissed her deeply. "I'm the luckiest man alive." That night, after Hope was asleep in her crib and they lay tangled together in bed, J1 ran his hand over her stomach. "Boy or girl, what do you hope for? Healthy, that's all that matters." She covered his hand with hers. but maybe a boy this time. So Hope has a little brother to boss around. A son. The word came out reverent. I'd like that. Teach him to be gentle, to respect women, to be nothing like the man I was before I met you. You're a good man, Jaewon. You always were. You just needed someone to believe in you. And you did, when no one else would. When I didn't believe in myself, you saw something worth saving. He kissed her stomach. I'll spend the rest of my life proving you right. As Amara drifted off to sleep, wrapped in her husband's arms with their daughter breathing softly in the next room and new life growing inside her, she thought about that night in the club. About dark eyes and bad decisions and one-night stands that were supposed to stay buried. She'd been looking for escape when she met Park Jae-won. Instead, she'd found salvation. Not in the form she expected, not gentle or easy, but real and fierce and absolutely hers. Their love story wasn't conventional. It was born from violence and possession and circumstances that should have destroyed them. But they'd taken those broken pieces and built something beautiful. A family, a future, a love that had survived the worst and come out stronger. And really, wasn't that the most romantic story of all? Here's the closing outro to add after the final paragraph. If you loved Amara and Park Jae-won's story of unexpected love born from one dangerous night, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to K Fairy Tales Stories for more emotional, intense, and unforgettable Afro-Korean romance tales. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought. Would you have stayed with Jaewon after learning the truth? What would you name their second baby? Share this video with someone who loves dark romance with happy endings, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Until next time, besties, remember that sometimes the most beautiful love stories are born from the most unexpected beginnings. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.